going on, friends and family? My name is Skylent, and today we are going to be talking about the top 10 free-to-play hidden gems of this year, of 2016. So these are games that you probably overlooked, you probably missed, unless you literally follow me, because all the gameplay in all these games I did professional first impressions on. And in fact, I actually replay a lot of these games. I consistently play them, and I think that they're good games, and I'm going to recommend them. Now, honestly, they're on this list. They're hidden gems, so their populations aren't going to be that great. And for at least one game, I think it might even be 0. But I still think they're actually good games. You know, just land it up, get some friends over, and you can play these games, have an experience, make some memories. These are decent games. These are okay games, and they got overlooked. Now, some of them might yet be very, very popular. I think especially more to the top of the list, we're going to see them grow out in popularity next year. But for right now, you know, they're just being a little bit overlooked for a number of reasons. We'll talk about that. But these are hidden gems, guys. Okay, so maybe you've heard of them, maybe you haven't, but I think, you know, I did my first impressions, and I feel that these games deserve a second look. From everybody. From me, from you, from everybody, so that's why this top 10 exists, okay? So, hey, maybe you'll find a game that you missed. Let's get into the list. Let's talk about Toxikk. Toxikk is an arena shooter. If you don't know what an arena shooter is, you live under a rock. Basically Quake, Unreal Tournament, and we've got a slew of these kind of games coming out that are really just kind of in the image of those older arena shooters. Like, literally, this game is very similar to Unreal Tournament. And then we have its competitor Reflex, which is very similar to Quake, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of games coming out. Also, there is the Unreal Tournament game, which, you know, in itself is competing with all these games. All these games are competing with each other, you know, free to play or otherwise. They're competing with the originals because people still play Unreal Tournament 2004 or they still play Quake Live. There's just so much competition, and none of them are really succeeding. None of them at all. So it's not Toxikk's fault. But I feel like Toxikk is the one that is really trying the hardest. It's trying to win our hearts so bad, dude, and it really needs to. So it used to be buy to play, then they switched it. They have a free to play model now where, well, you can still buy into the game, but it's like just cosmetics and some other server options. But yeah, you can play the game for free, and still, its player base is not that great. I mean, same thing for Unreal Tournament, but that's not technically like close to being finished at all. So Toxikk, man, is supposed to be hype, but you know, they didn't keep it alive. Anyways, that's what this top 10 is all about. Let's keep the hype alive, guys. Moving on, we have AirBrawl is a pilot game. It is a flight simulation game. I could dare to say simulation because it's really cartoony. It's really random, and I mean, it's fun, it's silly, it's gimmicky, but it's pretty fast-paced, actually. So it's a little bit faster than War Thunder, but it's not as crazy as something like Strike Vector. Absolutely not. But it's a pretty good mix of skill-based gameplay and some strategy, tactics a little bit, because you actually do have different ships, and they do have different weapons and things they can use, which is pretty cool. A little bit of customization for your gameplay there. And then whenever you're playing, you know, team battles or whatever, you know, flying around these crazy maps, and the maps really do make a difference because it is so cartoon, right? So it's not just open airspace like War Thunder generally tends to be. So you have these maps and, you know, the placements, your tactics with your team, that all really matters. That was a lot of fun. But honestly, if you just jump into this game, they also have these, just like a little single player challenge, or you can actually race people through these obstacle course maps, which is, that's pretty crazy too. Again, super comical and very indie, so it's not highly polished. It's no Dreadnought, okay? And like I said, it's no Strike Vector, which, yeah. Anyways, flight simulation games tend not to be too popular, but AirBrawl, also very, as indie as it is, we could see why it's been skipped over, but hey, I just wanted to mention again, it's actually pretty fun. So if you do want to just land it up, get some friends over, you can have some fun with AirBrawl. Next game I want to talk about is Snow. Snow is directly competing with Steep, and Snow, I think, is... Well, when it first came out, it was really buggy, and it's not perfect now, okay? So if you do snowboard, you are going to notice a lot of inconsistencies, but it's really freaking good, okay? I think what Snow wants to be is kind of what Skate did for skateboarding. That's kind of what Snow wants to do, you know? Also free to play. And it's got this like open world MMO-ish kind of vibe to it, which I mean Steep does too. You're supposed to be able to make your own parks and kind of customize your rides and things like that. But the truth is that Snow at the moment for its development, which is going very slowly, it's kind of focusing on a lot of different directions, you know? They got a lot of things that they got to fine tune. They have the like sort of campaign-ish single player that they're kind of adding on, these little challenge modes. They have the open world aspect, which they haven't really finalized or finished because you can't really even make your own parks or do anything like that. There's really no true multiplayer interaction in this game right now. Then you also have like the replay and camera issues and just general bugs and physics issues. And there's just a lot that the game is aiming to do all at once. And so it hasn't finalized any single direction. So if you jump into the game, you might find yourself, it might be a little bit shallow. So that's kind of why it's getting overlooked. This is a really slow development process, but I still think that if you do take your time in Snow and you try to learn the mechanics and you do try to do, just a little bit of everything, there is still a lot of content. I mean, I've got a dozen hours in it and I still had a lot of fun, even though, I wasn't too hyped for the game. So yeah, I mean, it's really coming along. Next game is a game called First Assault Ghost in the Shell, or Ghost in the Shell First Assault. I think a lot of people overlook this game because it is Ghost in the Shell. Normally, this is something that you would maybe see in a cash grab. Okay, you would see like a name, especially because there's a movie coming out, just slapped on. Somebody just grabbed this IP. But no, the truth is that First Assault is a legitimate like Ghost in the Shell game. Okay, so it's kind of like a hero shooter. You do have these different characters, and their abilities are directly taken from the anime, which is actually really exciting. People with stealth. So I think it's pretty neat, dude. Okay, it's not like completely immersed in the Ghost in the Shell universe, but it does feel a lot better than many other free-to-play shooters out there. A lot of them are getting canceled, and a lot of them are just really old and dated. So anything is a breath of fresh air. But the fact that this is also Ghost in the Shell, and they add new kind of hero shooter mechanics, and it's not just a cash grab. And they also add other mechanics, like there's customization with the weapons, which is Blacklight Retribution-ish kind of, it kind of reminded me of that. It's really good, dude. It's really good in a lot of different ways. And basically, I think you should probably check this out versus playing something like, some of them older free-to-play shooters because, well, they're just fucking old. So, yeah, that's basically why I want this on the list. It is more than just, a cash grab for Ghost in the Shell. All right, so the next game is a game called Istrolid. I think it's, Istrolid, whatever. It is a 2D RTS. I would dare say it's a light RTS. You see a lot of these kind of games on mobile devices, but what makes this one different is that you actually create your own units, okay? You create your own ships to a very detailed, very significant amount. I'm not really sure how to say this, but basically Astrolid, the main gameplay is sort of like deck building. I mean, maybe I can kind of reference like card games, where a lot of the game really depends on the units that you're using. In normal RTSs, it's where you place them, how you produce them. But in Istrolid, it's the deck building. It's the units the type of units that you want to use, and even to the minute details of like what thrusters they're using, how fast they go, what weapons they use. And of course, you have that rock, paper, scissors, but in normal RTSs, and you do have it in this game. But in this game, it's like you can kind of modify the scissors so that they're not quite as weak to rock. And then maybe they're doubly effective against paper, and they move just a little bit quicker, or maybe they're a little bit slower. Like weird stuff like that. And I haven't seen that in an RTS yet. And I know at the same time, it's just a simple, light RTS. It's mainly focused on the deck building aspect, but I think that's really fucking cool. Next game hype, we got Cloud Pirates. And normally, whenever you have these airship type of games, or you have just aerial games, period, flight simulation, normally it's just big open space, and it's very unfun. But one reason why I liked AirBrawl, which is also on this list here, and I like Cloud Pirates, is because the map is very, well, it exists. There's actually a reason to dodge, duck, weave. You can actually hide behind, well, in Cloud Pirates, you have these floating freaking, like, mountains. It's just really, or like these fractured, like, different parts of ships and like castles and things. It's really cool, dude. It's really cool that the map design is so intensive and it actually makes a difference. So, yeah. Cloud Pirates is really fun. It reminds me a lot of Dreadnought. It reminds me a lot of Fractured Space, which is a spoiler alert. It's also on the list here. And it's got some unique mechanics that kind of sets it apart. Not too crazy ridiculous, but all in all, I do like that this is inside the Allods universe. And because it is inside the Allods universe, the map design is like also influenced by that. Because in Allods, you have like these floating, mountains and everything. And in Cloud Pirates, you get that. You get that really awesome map dynamic, which you don't get in a lot of flying games. Yeah. Next up, we have Shadowverse. This is essentially you could say it's almost a Hearthstone copy or clone, but it actually does a lot of things differently. I mean, the art style is different itself, but you do have some mechanics that are really, really exciting. And also it has the campaign system, which I think is really cool, that you don't have to grind forever to actually access like in Hearthstone. So yeah, this is basically like anime Hearthstone. It's Hearthstone with waifus. But there really is some kind of interesting mechanics to this game. There really is. I think it's, in my opinion, it's more interesting than Gwent. I mean, I had fun with Gwent. It's more fun than the Elder Scrolls game. Definitely, like Elder Scrolls is like Hearthstone, but with 2 lanes. I don't really think it separates itself enough. Shadowverse actually legitimately adds like some very interesting mechanics, like the evolution mechanic. You also have the different classes that have very interesting ways and resources. They have their own unique resources. So anyways, Shadowverse, yeah, it's kind of a clone, but it really does some things special. And I could go on and on. I could do a whole video on it. In fact, I did. You should go watch the first impression. That goes for all these games on this list. Yeah, got the first impressions if you want to click them. Next game is Fractured Space. Yeah, I mentioned this in the Cloud Pirates section, but Fractured Space is kind of MOBA-ish. And one thing that kind of detracts me from playing more Fractured Space is because the maps tend to be, you know, very open. Okay, they're very, very open. And the game is also much, much slower than Dreadnought, than Cloud Pirates. But in the fact that it is so slow-paced, it's really more like World of Tanks in space. And I think a lot of people really want that. There's a whole lot of number crunching, a whole huge focus on strategy and tactics. Yeah, it's not a mechanical shooter. You're not going to be aiming or sniping, really, but it is still a really, really fun game in its own right. It's still kind of niche, but then again, World of Tanks used to be niche, and still kind of is, but it's a fucking big niche now. Does that even make sense? That's kind of an oxymoron, but Fractured Space, it could really go places. It's got some competition, though. It really does, and it doesn't seem to be spearheading it, but still, it could work out. So keep your eyes open for this one. Next up, we have Hunger Dungeon. Now, this is a more recent first impression that I did. Came out of nowhere, guys. Came out of nowhere. But this is basically like, it's kind of the definition of a MOBA in a way, but it's just a free-for-all. Okay, it's a battle royale MOBA. And it just has like this sort of dungeon crawling RPG feel. So it kind of reminds me of Crawl. But it is a party game, but it's a free-to-play online party game. So you pick a character, you jump into these arenas, and there's like levels to the arenas too. So it's just a free-for-all. Whoever gets the most kills gets the most points. Use those points to buy spells, to buy items. You level up, you go into the next round. So not many MOBAs do rounds. I know Battlerite does. But Hunger Dungeon is not, it's not a team-based MOBA, but it's a battle royale MOBA, which I haven't played one yet, so I don't even know if that's a technical genre. Hunger Dungeon is fucking awesome. Love the pixel art, love the concepts that it brings. It mixes and matches a lot of really cool stuffs that I personally like, and I think more people should really play it, especially because it is such a fun game to pick up and play, and because it is so easy to pick up and play, and yet it still has some pretty good progression. Okay, so the final game I want to talk about is Tiger Knight. Now, I left this one for last because I think this one's gaining popularity more than any other game on this list, actually. I think more people are starting to realize that, yeah, this is a niche game, and it's very, you know, targeted toward its audience, but I think it's going to completely capture that audience. Very similar to how World of Tanks did. Now, I know that Tiger Knight is probably actually directly competing with Total War Arena. However, that is actually being republished by, or I think redeveloped? I don't know, something's going on with that because it has not come out yet and it's taken a long time. But Tiger Knight came out of nowhere, and it's like this sort of Mountain Blade-ish kind of game. I mean, it kind of reminds me of Dynasty Warriors in a way. But yeah, it's like an RTS where you kind of play in with your units, you move around with your units. It's really focused on tactics, and yes, it's extremely laggy on American servers for some reason, and it really looks kind of rough around the edges, but I think give it some time, just like World of Tanks. You remember when World of Tanks first came out? I thought that game would look garbage. Now it's amazing. I think Tiger Knight is going to be the same thing. It's going to do exactly the same thing. I think it will blow up, but before it gets, you know, really discovered, I just want to say this is a hidden gem, and actually, if you want to start a YouTube channel and you're looking for a game to play, I think Tiger Knight might actually be a really good one to play. It's got a lot of depth to it, and I think it's only going to get better from here. Abso-freaking-lutely. So guys, that's the 10 games that I did videos on, did first impressions on. They're all free. Right now, you can play them. That's a big thing. Now, there's some other games that I think aren't getting enough attention, like Albion Online. There's also Faria. There's Crossout. But then again, those games either have changed from being free-to-play, or they're not free-to-play anymore. Or also Atlas Reactor. Used to be buy-to-play, but then that went free-to-play, and nah. These games are free. You can play them right now. Even if they're not in a complete state, you can completely play them right now. You can have a lot of fun, regardless of their population. Well, okay, maybe not regardless, but I just want to say, I want these games to succeed. I know they're hidden gems, but I want them to do good, okay? So it's kind of selfish of me. This list is completely biased as well. But these are videos that I did not have to do. I was either asked to do, or, you know, just in passing, I was like, whatever, I've got nothing else to do. I played these games, and I genuinely had fun, okay? So That's all I can say. That's all I can say. Genuinely, I'm gonna give these games a good rep, and you can actually find my first impressions for these games. You can go click the links in the description. You can see those videos. I legitimately played them. I legitimately had fun, and all the gameplay in the background was of me doing my first impressions. So yeah, this is not a Watch Mojo. This is not a commercialized. This is not a fucking corporate top 10. This is a top 10 that's coming from my heart, and I know a lot of these games are gonna fail. And some of them aren't going to be as big as I want them to be. But here's my last hurrah. Here's my, my second chance at showing these games off. Because my first impressions I don't think was enough. Hopefully you guys give these games, the second chance that they deserve and check these out. Hopefully you found a game that you didn't know about and now you want to try them out and have some fun. I really hope you guys have fun. Thanks for watching, guys. My name is Skylent, and I will see you in the next one.